Back out comes Lapras. We're going to bank the Scorching Sands to the road, make the pivot into Electivire. The opponent tries for the Wild Charge catch onto Jumpluff, but all they're catching is that double super effective Ice Punch. We're going to farm up, throw this Ice Punch on the CMP tie to a very unfortunate Aerial Ace bait. But I've got a sneaky suspicion, trainer, that no bait will be saving your fate. I'm going to invest the Protect Shield, fire off 4 Thunder Shocks, throw the Ice Punch on the CMP tie, Shadow and Shadow Crime. It's going to be high Jumpluff. By Jumpluff, remove yourself from my screen. Back out comes Lapras, and it's very quickly about to meet the same fate. GG's, and thanks for playing. Welcome back to the channel. As you can hear in my voice, I'm still not feeling 100%, so logically I'm going to undertake one of the biggest projects I've ever done on the YouTube platform. We're going to have around 45 minutes of non-stop Shadow Electivire destruction in the Open Great League. Is it necessary to make a 45-minute video? From a content creation point of view, it'd be a lot more beneficial to myself and my channel to make two 20 to 25 minute videos. However, I know some people enjoy that longer content, and where else are you going to see Shadow Electivire? This Pokemon has a higher attack than Morpeko, and that is not taken into account. It's 20% buff to its attack and it's 20% nerf to its defense. I'm sure you all know that Morpeko is very high risk, high reward, and really struggles into them ground types. Don't get me wrong, Electivire cries when it sees a Mud Slap. A single Mud Slap does around a 30 of health. However, we do have that Ice Punch coverage, hit back against them ground types in a worst case, get out of jail free scenario. It's also double super effective into the ever common Jumpluff, a Pokemon I'm also running myself. The reason I'm running Jumpluff is quite simple. It triple resists ground, and Electivire is terrified of them ground types. Rounding today's team off, we're going to have Diggersby. Yeah, I know, it's because I'm basic and I need some much needed bulk. The idea of the team, sack everything, and I hope Electivire can go booming. Without any further ado, let's get into the battle! And in game 1, what the heck is on my screen? What is Electivire doing in Season 22? I'm going to farm up, throw the Ice Punch. I'm looking to force myself an early shield advantage and then save switch into Diggersby. No! Or not. I don't know what the opponent was expecting. Electivire, you might be bulky, buddy, but you do not tank a double super effective charge move from Electivire. Well, you did tank it, but not particularly well. I was able to snipe with Diggersby, and out comes the Grass Snake. For Electivire to function, you need to force shields down, so I'm more than willing to shield one Frenzy Plant, fire off this next Fire Punch and look to get my shield back. The more shields that are stripped away, the more chance you've got of absolutely nuking the back line. The Shadow Bunny able to get this Grass Snake into the red health range. I'd love to Thundershock farm that thing down, but that's probably a bit optimistic, even by my own level of shenanigans. I send out Jumpluff, the opponent not wanting to concede a farm down. I send out Sableye. We're going to full send the Acrobatics, guarantee that Protect Shield. All big damage. The opponent opt for the protection. At this point, we just need to use Jumpluff to absorb some hits. Jumpluff is so bloody bulky. Even as a Shadow, the first foul play, it didn't do half my remaining HP. So that logic, this second one won't be lethal. We've got the next Acrobatics locked and loaded. Jumpluff gets in on the big boom action. We pivot into Electivire. The opponent going to fire off a likely Aerial Ace bait, but that bait will not save their fate. So we're going to fire off the Ice Punch and take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see Dugong in the lead position, a very nice lead for me. However, the issue is Electivire cannot tank fast move pressure whatsoever. The opponent safe switches into Charger Bug. As I do resist the Volt switches, I take the opportunity to farm up some energy before answering this with the Bunny. The Bunny can hit the super effective with the Fire Punch, but Diggersby, not known for his attack stat, despite being super effective, it isn't going to pick up the knockout. The opponent farms up 2 double X Scissor, so I could have fired off my Fire Punch there, losing CMP, then I wouldn't have had to tank this next charge move. However, if I did that, the opponent would just farm me down with Dugong, and then Electivire would have to deal with the energy, so I'm more than willing to tank 2, fire off the Fire Punch, either forcing a shield advantage or keeping switch. We're able to keep switch advantage, that more than works for me. The opponent sends out Claydol and Jumpluff hits the field of play. The Go Battle League isn't all that complicated at times. If this opponent fought for switch advantage, then now with their Mud Slapper aligned against my electric type and the Ice type aligned against my grass and flying type. However, the opponent didn't fight for switch advantage, and because of that, we're very much in the driver's seat. Of course, there's no point in throwing Aerial Ace against such a bulky Pokemon. We fire off Acrobatics after Acrobatics. We are now in Rock Tomb range, so I'm going to shield 1. I'm then going to fire off 1 further Acrobatics, then look to snipe with that banked energy. So all we've got to do here is wait for the Mud Slap animation to start. Once we see it, it's going to be high Claydol, by Claydol. Electivire is a Claydol counter confirmed. Feed me that Dugong, back out comes Dugong. Dugong might think it's thick, but Electivire might have a little something to say about that. Shadow Electivire claims yet another victim. Uh-oh, I'm in trouble. We see Shadow and Shadow Crime with Kanto Marowak into Electivire. I was almost crying. I'm just kidding. These Mud Slappers are super common. Spoiler alert, do not try this team at home. This is definitely for entertainment purposes. The opponent go for a very smart chip and dip. The Mud Slaps and Bone Club have put me into Aqua Jet range. We actually force the energy here, which is also very nice for me. The opponent is energy dry, so I've kind of got two choices. I can go for the one shield, full Thundershock farm down, or I can throw a charge move on CMP. Electivire is a monstrous attack, so I'm going to go for the one shield and full Thundershock farm down. Bit risky, but this is an Electivire showcase. We're going to play a bit strange today, trying to give Electivire the best opportunity to do its thing. As soon as Marowak re-enters the arena, I pivot into Jumpluff and out comes Dusknoir. Dusknoir, also a top meta threat. But unless this opponent's running Legacy Shadow Ball, they really don't have that boom potential I do. We fire off the first Acrobatics, the first one, force the Protect Shield, and once again, we're YOLOing the second one. The second Acrobatics goes unshielded, removing them from the field of play. Back out comes Marowak. We've only got to reach a single Aerial Ace. This puts them into Ice Punch range, and I am doubled up. We go for the wham, bam, combo play. Ice Punch will be forcing the opponent's final Protect Shield. And just because I can, we're going to fire off one Thundershock and the resisted Wild Charge just to put the stamp of authority. GG's, and thanks for playing. Heading into the next battle. Karma is served. After BM in a ground type, the game says have another one. We're going to say switch into Diggersby. The opponent going to fire off the Rock Tomb, wanting to debuff me before sending out Cradilly. Things not looking fantastic. Hard counter in the lead, and now we're debuffed. This is a matchup we are never ever flipping. I've really enjoyed Shadow Diggersby on the say switch in previous team compositions this season. The neutral quick attacks I really do chunk over time, but unfortunately today, or in this battle specifically, when you're aligned against a rock type, or even a steel or ghost type, them quick attacks do absolutely nothing. We send out Electivire, the opponent fire off the Rock Tomb, we're going to tank the damage, and once again, I'm going to look to overfarm, fire off the Ice Punch. I could have went for CMP, but I was worried I'd get sniped with a Mud Slap, so we're going to bank the next Ice Punch, make the pivot into Jumpluff, and out comes Morpeko. This is a matchup where we are fully wall with our charge moves, but the Fairy Winds do really chunk over time. Once again, we're just going to YOLO the Acrobatics and hope the opponent doesn't respect the damage. We fire off the first Acrobatics, force the Protect Shield, and all is almost looking lost. However, when I was growing up, my dad always told me it's not over till the fat lady sings. And I'm listening like I can't hear no singing. We're going to invest the Protect Shield. Unfortunately, we get debuff with the Psychic Fangs, but Acrobatics goes unshielded. We then reset our debuff despite the Mud Slaps being triple resisted. I don't want to get Mud Slap farm down. We fire off the Ice Punch. The opponent gets minimal farm. The question now becomes, can Jumpluff reach the double Aerial Aces before we get Mud Slap farm down? We're so close to the double. The first Aerial Ace forces the Protect Shield. We survive the next Mud Slap. They are triple resisted, and Jumpluff will be emerging victorious. Woof! What a game. Heading into the next battle, we see Steelix in the lead position. This isn't actually as bad as you might think. Well, it wouldn't be if they're on the recommended moveset of Thunderfang, as we would resist that. They're on Dragon Tail. We say switch into Diggersby, and out comes Dugong. We managed to escape hard counters last battle. Can we go 2 for 2? Surely my luck's about to run out. Of course, Diggersby is my best answer for that Steelix. However, I would have say switch Jumpluff. I wouldn't really recommend doing. I would have just got hard punished by this Ice type, which would have hit my double super effective. We're able to land the next Scorching Sands. Unfortunately, the opponent does leave with a charge move. I don't want to go down a Protect Shield, so I'm just going to fire off my Ice Punch and look to deny their energy. Ice Punch picks up the knockout despite being double resisted. Back out comes Steelix. I'm going to fire off the Ice Punch, which hits for neutral, and then just pray Jumpluff pulls off another miracle. We pivot into Jumpluff. The opponent probably going to fire off some sort of annoying debuff move. They go for the break-in swipe. Right on cue, there's the attack drop. The opponent unhappy with their first attack drop. Like, let's have another go. The game's like, fine, have a second attack drop. The opponent stays in, fire off one further break-in swipe. 3 for 3 on attack drops. I've had enough of that nonsense, and I'm going to concede the match. Heading into the next battle, we see another Dugong in the lead position with another Charger Bug say switch. Who put this core out? This must have been a YouTuber's upload. Looks like a Dan Ottawa team if I'm being brutally honest. And again, we're going to look to play it the same way. Of course, I did say last time, as the team we saw previously had a Claydol, switch advantage was everything. However, when you're going to run such a glassy Pokemon like Electivire, even Shadow Diggersby and Jumpluff aren't all that bulky. They're bulky by my standards, but in reality, not that bulky. Most people use a super bulky nonsense like Azuma or Tinkaton, etc. They have nowhere near that bulk. The opponent actually gives up switch advantage themselves, send out Dugong as they've sniped. Dugong users love to shield. This is such a risky bait. Ice Punch, double resisted, but the bait is successful. Of course, I'm just going to shield this move up now. We're going to be able to outpace to the double wild charge. So if I was the opponent, logically, I'd just let this go. Does the opponent respect the damage? Electivire knocks out yet another Dugong. There's the Claydol. What the heck? How have we seen this team twice? Back in the early season, I used to be super locked in. By now, I'd be like, oh, so-and-so showcased this team. I'll be honest, I've absolutely no idea where this team's come from. Does it even make sense? They're kind of ABA weak to Rock, right? If they saw a Bastiodon, they'd probably cry. Although, in fairness, Dugong does have Drill Run, which is double super effective. We're getting distracted. As always, we're going to YOLO Acrobatics after Acrobatics. They actually full sent an Ice Beam. However, they never ever Mudslap farm me down. Acrobatics picks up the knockout and we take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see Cradilly in the lead position. I'm always preaching good fast move timing on the channel. I think fast move timing is the difference between those that hit Legend and those that do not. So of course, using a 2-turn move into a 3-turn move, you want to throw out 1, 4 or 7. However, an argument could be made when you see Cradilly, I should have fired off 5 Thunder Shots and got off the Ice Punch before I was debuffed. However, I'm more than happy to take my free Thunder Shot, because Electivire has such a heavy pacing advantage in this matchup. I'm going to be able to reach 4 moves before they reach 3, meaning I will win the 2-shield scenario, and even if I got off the Ice Punch before I was debuffed, it wouldn't have forced a knockout. The opponent recognises they're going to lose that 2-shield scenario, take their shield advantage, and send out Kanto Marowak. We bank the Ice Punch, pivot into Diggersby. The opponent sends out Shadow Annihilate. We fire off the Scorching Sands, instantly getting the attack drop, and we waste no time going for the Fire Punch, looking to move them from the field of play. Down goes Annihilate, back out comes Marowak, and Marowak's going to look to pick up a knockout with the Bone Club, and they do exactly that. And at this point, this game is signed, sealed, and delivered. One Rock Slide, very easily survivable. All we've got to do is YOLO and Acrobatics, guarantee that Protect Shield, and then knock them out with that banked Ice Punch. The Acrobatics should be forcing the Protect Shield. We then go for the Wham, Bam combo play. I must have had a seizure there as I almost got knocked out, taking an eternity to switch, but we're able to survive the Mud Slap, fire off the Ice Punch, and take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see Greninja in the lead. You'd think this is a good matchup. However, let's be real, a Night Slash, which this certainly is, would probably do almost all my HP. I actually don't know, but I don't intend to find out. Greninja users love to shield. We fire off the Ice Punch. Even if that went unshielded, they would have been able to Thunder Shot farm down after. We save switch into Jumpluff, looking to catch a charge move. I went to Jumpluff, not that I think you should save switch Jumpluff, as if they wouldn't have thrown instantly, I wouldn't really fancy tanking a Hydro Cannon on the big fat bunny. The opponent entered the mirror, that more than works for me. As a return ahead, we're able to win this mid-game matchup. The opponent then sends out Togetic, double flyers, pretty cool team and also pretty spicy. Once again, we YOLO the Acrobatics, which goes unshielded. The opponent looking for that Fairy Wind farm down, which they're able to get, but we're just going to send out the bunny to do what it does best and absorb energy. Looks like the opponent went for a blind Psy Shock, anticipating Electivire re-entering the arena. They're now full send a Dazzling Gleam, but the big fat bunny simply doesn't care. I go straight for the Fire Punch. I don't even pause a turn. If the opponent caught, that had more than worked for me, as any damage on this Greninja would be welcome. The opponent's going to fire off the Night Slash, and as long as I don't boost, we should be able to Thunder Shock farm down. Thankfully, no boost does occur. The opponent's now one Water Shrieking of the next charge move. They need damage registration error to win this game. They don't get it. We Thunder Shock farm down and take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see Jumpluff in the lead position. The opponent save switches into Drapion. I'm going to fire off the Ice Punch and then make the pivot. If Ice Punch goes unshielded, I'll probably send out Jumpluff. As we force the shield, I'm more than happy to send out Diggersby. If you are going to use Shadow Diggersby over the regular, one thing you should know is this Drapion matchup just simply is not comfortable. 2 Aqua Tails with the Poison Stings almost knock you out. Mine just about survives, but it's very, very well ranked. I think it's like a 1, 13, 15. It's like rank 17 or something. I'm able to remove Drapion from the field of play. Back out comes Jumpluff. We fire off the Fire Punch, and they're going to need to Full Send an Acrobatics to pick up the knockout. If they go for an Aerial Ace bait, we'll reach one further Fire Punch. The opponent actually reveals her on Energy Ball. I've now got a plan. They're going to be 4 off, so I'm going to fire off 4 Thunder Shocks, go for a very high risk, high reward, Energy Ball catch onto the mirror. Stay in school, kids, and learn to count. The question now becomes, are they on Aerial Ace or are they on Twin Nukes? The opponent fire off what can only be an Aerial Ace. I'm more than happy to tank this damage. I'm then going to overfarm, pause, ensuring Jumpluff's still on the screen, and look to pick up a knockout with my own Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace removes the opposing Jumpluff from the field of play, and out comes Morpeko. Win con from here, quite straightforward. Full Send and Acrobatics. I'm just going to Fairy Wind them into a range where I think they're in Wild Charge range. That looks like Wild Charge range to me. We go for the combo play. Wild Charge might be resisted, but someone forgot to tell Morpeko, and we take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see the Pancake, Unova Stunfisk. I attempt to catch a Mud Bomb onto Diggersby, and my catch attempt is unsuccessful. The opponent sends out the Kentucky Fried Chicken, Bird of Death, and this matchup is nowhere near as bad as you might think. As I said previously, the quick attacks just do so much bloody damage. The opponent's going to have to Full Send a Brave Bird to do any meaningful damage. They opt for the Fly, and the Big Fat Bunny holds strong. 2 further quick attacks and the next Scorching Sands, rocking Talonflame into the red health range. And just like that, Diggersby is a Talonflame counter confirmed. The opponent sends out Gator. We're actually low enough that I think I might get Shadow Claw farm down. So instead of Concealer farm down, we pivot into the Cotton Ball. My win con, of course, is very much with Electivire. The opponent can enjoy themselves. They go for the Hydro Cannon bait, and we Stone Cold no shield. We're going to Full Send the Acrobatics. The opponent invests their final Protect Shield, and once again, trainer, enjoy yourself. We're giving the opponent the opportunity to land a beam, and they continue to masturbate, killing poor defenseless cat after poor defenseless cat. This Acrobatics now lands on its intended target, and with 2 to no shield advantage, this game is simply over. The opponent doesn't even commit to the Thunder Shock farm down. All we've got to do is shield up the Mud Bomb, reach double Ice Punch, and take the dub. However, this opponent, they're in the 2700s, clearly trying to push to Legend, as they're not quite Legend yet. They're wasting my time, so I'm going to attempt to waste theirs. We go for the catch onto Diggersby, unsuccessfully, of course. I've got the Ice Punch banked, which would win the game. But if they want it that much, trainer, you can have it. We fire off the triple resisted Wild Charge. They're able to withstand the damage. We've got a shield. We're going to tank the charge move, and we're going to move swiftly on. GG's to that opponent, and good luck on your Legend push. One tip from me, don't bait so bloody much. Heading into the next battle. We see another Cradilly in the lead position. I was going to say, we can almost guarantee this opponent's going to spam the charge move as soon as they get it. They actually say switch into Gator. So in a kind of neutral matchup, and they pivot out into a losing matchup. We're able to catch the Hydro Cannon onto the Cotton Ball, and once again, we're going to Full Send the Acrobatics, looking to remove them from the field of play. Opponent invests that Protect Shield. This is probably a Hydro Cannon. In an ideal scenario, I don't really want Diggersby aligned against Cradilly. We know just how awful that can be. The opponent bait once again. They actually go down both Protect Shields. Again, this is going to need to be an Ice Beam. However, it's a Hydro Cannon. Why are people baiting so much? Honestly. So since Jumpluff's entered the arena, they've thrown 15 Shadow Claws. They could have thrown an Ice Beam at every opportunity, but they did not. Back out comes Cradilly. The opponent does make a nice Aerial Ace catch onto Toxapex. However, Toxapex is going to be very sad when Diggersby enters the arena. We send out Diggersby, of course. I'm just going to tank the Brine at 1 Brine, an absolutely trash move. It might be super effective, but it sure don't look like it. I'm going to fire off this Scorching Sands, fishing for the attack drop. Scorching Sands won't be lethal. We'll then swipe with an Electivire. Back out comes Cradilly, and it's going to be death by Ice Punch. The first Ice Punch, going to rock them below half health. We've still got the shield to hide behind. I can safely shield this move up. The opponent fire off the Rock Tomb, lowering my attack, but that attack drop really doesn't matter. And just to show you, we're going to fire off the resisted Wild Charge and take that game. Once again, we get reminded that every time we go for a bad manners play, we're immediately met by a ground type. Swampert, without a doubt, one of the worst things this team can see. Electivire, of course. Not going to do well into it. Diggersby, awful. And Jumpluff, Without Energy Ball, also not particularly good. We can only hit for neutral, whereas they can hit for super effective with the Sludge. The opponent then sends out a shiny Dragonite, and I'm already thinking, fucking hell, this looks absolutely over. Unfortunately, this battle, Electivire looks like dead weight, so we're just going to use the damage sponge. Is Electivire a good damage sponge? No, it's not. We actually survived the Dragon Claw, but the Dragon Breath registers before I can save it as the third shield, which is brutal, man. We send out Jumpluff, unfortunately unable to Fairy Wind farm down before they reach another Dragon Claw. Wincon's probably landing an Acrobatics and hoping it's something like, what could be in the back that we can beat? Pangoro? Of course, this video is just some highlighted battles from today. Some of the battles that I thought were fun. You're going to see some pretty hard losses, and believe me, there are plenty more that I'm not going to showcase. I guess it's kind of pointless just seeing me get RPS'd and top left. Of course, this team is more for entertainment purpose only. We do at least get to see the third. That third is not something we're going to beat, so I'm not even going to bother throwing a charge move, waste anyone's time, and we're going to take a loss. GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see Shadow and Shadow Crime with Electivire into Jumpluff. The opponent save switches into Drapion. This opponent did what a lot of opponents did today and went straight for the Aqua Tail. So I'm actually going to look to make an adjustment. Moving forward, I'm going to attempt to catch Aqua Tails onto Jumpluff rather than invest in a shield. You might think, why am I shielding an Aqua Tail? Because the first battle of the day, I tanked an Aqua Tail from Shadow Drapion, and I instantly got rocked into the red, and then I remembered Electivire cannot tank a hit for shit. As I got off a whole heap of Thunder Shock damage, I'm actually able just to fire off an Aerial Ace here. An Aerial Ace, Shadow and Shadow Crime will pick up the knockout, and when Jumpluff does return, you better believe I am YOLO in this Acrobatics. Acrobatics goes unshielded, then pivot into Diggersby. The opponent sends out Morpeko, and they concede the match. Heading into the next battle, we see Lapras. Again, you'd think this is a good matchup, but the Sideways do arguably more than my Thunder Shocks. The opponent stays in, fire off a Sparkling Aria. I could farm up to the double Wild Charge and look to knock him out. I'm actually going to fire off the first one, and I'm actually going to bank one, trying a very high risk, high reward catch onto Jumpluff. Oof, that's risky. If the opponent wouldn't have thrown there, I could have potentially got Ice Beam, which would be double super effective damage. I've talked that into existence. The opponent like, I see your catch. I'm going to fire off an Ice Beam at you. As I've got so much energy in Electivire banked, I'm happy to invest a Protect Shield here. Look to guarantee the opponent's final Protect Shield and just remove Lapras from the field of players. Of course, Diggersby isn't a big fan of that either. The opponent then send out their own Jumpluff. Once again, we're going to YOLO the Acrobatics, guarantee the shield or the big damage. Yet another Acrobatics land, and the opponent only settles for an Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace won't be lethal. I'm going to try and bank my own Aerial Ace and make the pivot into Diggersby. The opponent sends out Drapion. Do I bait or do I full send? I think I should definitely bait it. But someone forgot to tell me that. Once again, as always, we full send the Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands forces the Protect Shield. The opponent fire off the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail. Oh, gets me into Poison Sting farm down range. And I've now got an Aqua Tail banked. I send out Jumpluff, anticipating the opponent throwing the energy. They do not. Out comes Jumpluff. Jumpluff going to be greeted with the Ice Punch. A very chaotic ending to this battle. We've got the double Ice Punch. Ice Punch actually is survivable, but that is CMP. Even if the opponent no bubble this, it will knock out. We've got the Aerial Ace banked, and we're going to be able to take a very, very close game. GG's to that opponent. In hindsight, when the opponent sent out their own Jumpluff, I should have just thrown my own Aerial Ace, knocked him out, and then Wild Charge Drapion for the dub. But I guess I like to make my life complicated. Heading into the next battle, we see the Kentucky Fried Chicken, Bird of Death. We're going to fire off the Ice Punch. As we go for the Ice Punch, we don't debuff our own defense, meaning we can make one further Ice Punch. And with all them Thunder Shocks, Ice Punch would have knocked out the opponent. Double shield, have 100 energy. However, you know what's good at soaking energy? The Big Fat Bunny. The opponent fire off the Fly, then pivot into Dugong. Oh, how do we beat Dugong? Ironically, Diggersby is my best answer. We're going to fire off the Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands does some decent damage. I've got 2 shields. And potentially a third shield. I send out Jumpluff, of course. This is double super effective damage. I am going to invest a Protect Shield here, but this is definitely getting dicey. I think here I should have actually thrown 3 rather than 4, so I didn't take that next Ice Shard. But I guess the thought process was we want to always maximise energy. Back out comes Talonflame. The opponent tries to make a catch onto Superior. I think if it wasn't debuffed, 2 Aerial Aces would be lethal. However, as I'm debuffed, I think Acrobatics into Aerial Ace will get the job done. The opponent fire off the Frenzy Plant, which probably suggests that they've got Leaf Tornado. We fire off the Aerial Ace, Talonflame has a move banked. Are they going to instant throw? I say yes. We're able to make the catch back onto the bunny. And here I'll make an absolute potato play. I'll throw 1 Fairy Wind just to maximise my fast move pressure. I didn't realise I had the energy for the Acrobatics, but regardless, Aerial Ace is going to pick up the dub. GG's that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see Grumpig in the lead position. I'm going to farm up, look to catch a Dynamic Punch onto Jumpluff. Again, I don't really recommend safe switching Jumpluff, but I can't just use the back 2 Pokemon to soak hits where I can. The opponent banks a boatload of energy before sending out Cradilly. My timing there a bit awkward to be honest, but we're able to land the Acrobatics. I don't fire off the Aerial Ace, I know Aerial Ace won't be lethal. But actually just going to force the energy as soon as they get it. So here they're going to be 6 off, or 6 Thunder Shocks off, 12 turns, so I could throw 12. However, I'm just going to throw 4, so if the opponent's shield, we can just fire off back to back. Ice Punch goes unshielded, removing them from the field of play. And here I make a huge mistake. I rarely bait, and this is a prime example of why. I fire off the Ice Punch, and Ice Punch gets called. Oof, brutal. The opponent then full send a Shadow Ball, then send out Guzzlord. So if I would have just fired off the Wild Charge, I would have knocked him out, and then Diggersby into Guzzlord, pretty good in the 2 shield matchup. However, things now not looking so great for me. Diggersby gonna fire off Scorching Sands after Scorching Sands. The opponent invest that Protect Shield. I'm kind of obliged to shield as well, as Diggersby is my only Pokemon with any really remaining health. Again, 1 quick attack and the Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands, gonna force the final Protect Shield. The opponent then send out Grumpig. We're able to make the catch back onto Electivire, giving us a fighting chance. Dynamic Punch picks up the knockout. We quick attack farm down Grumpig. 1 quick attack and the Scorching Sands, but unfortunately I'm just too low. We'd need to reach a Fire Punch, but we're going to get Dragon Tail farm down. And the moral of the story is, people always ask me, why don't you bait? And that is why. Heading into the next battle, we see an absolutely beautiful lead. The bulky, boring Blue Mouse, or Azumarill as most of you call it. A great lead for me, but a very, very problematic safe switch. We get off a buckload of Thundershock damage, banking a boatload of energy, and then send out the big fat bunny. I'm going to invest a Protection on the fly, throw 2 quick attacks and the Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands goes unshielded, and we're able to quick attack farm down before the next Incinerate registers. Out comes Azumarill. At this stage, I'm just getting farmed down, so I'm kind of obliged to pivot out. I'm going to pivot into Jumpluff. Ice Beam will be double super effective, but so be it. The opponent banks a boatload of energy and send out Toxapex. Down a Protect Shield, things are not looking great, but we have still got Diggersby alive with some HP. The opponent allows me to reach back-to-back Acrobatics, and the next one looks like it's a charge attack priority. We're able to force a Protect Shield. That's step 1 of getting myself back into the battle. Sludge Wave isn't lethal. The opponent gets 1 further. Poison Jab. We send back out Diggersby, fire off the Scorching Sands, looking to remove them from the field of play. The opponent invests a Protect Shield. Uh-oh, trainer, you're in trouble. We give the opponent that wham, bam, combo play, the Big Mac and the fries. That they didn't order. Back out comes Azumarill. They might have a lot of energy, but they're always going to be 1 bubble off the next charge move, even if they've got 100 energy, which means we're able to outpace to the Wild Charge and take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see Lapras in the lead position. The opponent safe switches into Drapion. I said previously that I really need to make an adjustment of looking to make an Aqua Tail catch. I don't do that. I try and make the Aqua Tail catch the second time, and the opponent read me like a book, and it is all going wrong for me in this battle. The opponent hits me in the face with the crunch, and they get the defense drop, because why not? I fire off the Aerial Ace, thinking I'm going to tank this charge move. We don't even do that. It's mistake after mistake. I'll be honest, I was getting quite tilted when I was playing this, and I give my head a wobble and think, come on Jamie, get yourself back in the game. The opponent fires off the Aqua Tail. We then pause a turn, ensuring this Fire Punch lands on its intended target. I suppose I can do something right occasionally. The opponent sends out Lapras. We're going to bank the Scorching Sands throw, make the pivot into Electivire, and out comes Jumpluff. The opponent tries to catch the Wild Charge, but all they catch, that double super effective Ice Punch to the face. We then farm up, throw the next Ice Punch, which turns out to be a CMP tie to the Aerial Ace bait. But let me tell you, trainer, I've got a sneaky feeling that no bait will be saving your fate. I played the first half of this matchup like an absolute potato, but I am looking for redemption. We farm up, throw the next Ice Punch on the charge attack priority. Hi Jumpluff, bye Jumpluff. When Lapras does return, Electivire is the bailout clause, and we take that game. That battle was like a game of football, really a tale of two halves. The first half of that matchup I played so poorly, but very good energy management got me out of jail. In the next battle, we see the snail in the lead position. I think an Ice Punch bait would be so risky, so I full send the Whale Charge. The opponent looks for the Incinerate farm down. Electivire will not be denied, reaches the next Whale Charge, forcing me a 2-0 shield advantage. I send out Diggersby. As the opponent's blind through, this is almost certainly a Rock Tomb. If they would have paused and saw what was coming in, I would have considered shielding. The opponent now farms the Overheat with Jumpluff in the back. I'm kind of obliged to respect it. The opponent then pivots into Sableye, bank the Scorching Sands for the road and send out Jumpluff. This is a purified Sableye and actually get hit with a return to the face. Fair play, very nice trainer. I haven't seen a return Sableye in like forever. Power Gem or Dazzling Gleam are usually preferred. We fire off the Acrobatics, we're able to Fairy Wind farm down the opponent. Incinerate farms me down. They remain on my screen. Fire off 2 quick attacks and the Scorching Sands, of course, double super effective, easily going to pick up the one shot. The opponent then sends out Superior. And if you want a reason to run Shadow Diggersby, here it is. The regular variant doesn't two-shot the Grass Snake, but the Shadow certainly does. I'm just going to shield at whatever they throw. It's probably the Aerial Ace bait. You know what I'm thinking. No bait ever going to save this Grass Snake's fate, as Diggersby is a superior counter confirmed. You heard it here first. GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we found ourselves a problem, and its name is Shadow Abomasnow. We're able to fire off the Ice Punch, winning CMP. Ice Punch to my surprise, forced to protect shield. I could shield this next move and fire off the next Ice Punch. I think it's kind of a wasted shield, as the next Ice Punch simply doesn't knock out. We're going to send out Diggersby. That Shadow Weather Ball does disgusting damage, and out comes a Razor Leaf Tropius. So things are looking good here. We should get off 2 Fire Punches. And as we've got a shield advantage, my thought is I'm just going to Fairy Wind farm them all the way down. And then we have the Aerial Ace ready, should that Abomasnow wish to re-enter the arena. Aerial Ace, not the hardest hitting move, but of course I don't know what's in the back. So we are going to invest the Protect Shield, commit to that full Fairy Wind farm down. The opponent sends up Bastiodon. What an awful team. I'm not even going to play it out. GG's, buddy, and we're moving swiftly on. In the next battle, we see Drapion in the lead position. We do attempt to catch, this time unsuccessfully. When I say this time, we've been unsuccessful every single time against Drapion. The former channel mascot. I'm sorry, Drapion. You're still the mascot, buddy. I do love Drapion, although I did love it a lot more when it was a spicy pick, as opposed to a Pokemon that's on 90% of teams. It's causing me some headache today. We managed to obtain ourselves a shield advantage, full sending the Acrobatics. Chances are this is going to be the same team that we saw previously. Lapras, Drapion and Jumpluff. It's going to be the team that Itzaxon posted, saying it's like, got him to top 10. No disrespect to anyone in like the 27-2800 elo range using this team. Itzaxon's the world champion. He knows the ins and outs of this team. Whereas the majority of players, myself included if I tried to use a team, aren't going to do it anywhere near as good as he can. Once again, we make the pivot into Electivire, and Jumpluff hits the field of play. Electivire with that shield advantage, looking to cook the back line. Once again, we're going to farm up, throw yet another double super effective Ice Punch. As they're not the Shadow, unfortunately, it doesn't quite knock out. However, I'm going to invest a Protect Shield here. The opponent full send the Acrobatics, which is going to enable me to overfarm. Once again, playing 2 CMP, Ice Punch removes them from the field of play. Back out comes Lapras, and we all know how this one's going to end. Hi Lapras, bye Lapras. Shout out Saxon, giving me a whole load of freelo. GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see Charjabug in the lead position. I'm going to farm up, try to make a catch onto the big fat bunny, the opponent not falling for any of my shenanigans, and out comes Cradilly. Both Diggersby and Jumpluff do struggle into Cradilly. So I guess it's nice to bait it out so the other one doesn't have to see it. The opponent falls in the grass, not the big fat bunny, withstands the damage, returns fire with the Scorching Sands. Diggersby trying to make the best of a dire situation, fires off the next Scorching Sands. The opponent looks for that Bullet Seed farm down. Diggersby will not be denied, able to take back switch or obtain a shield advantage in an atrocious matchup. Let's go, Bunny. The opponent leaves with the Rock Tomb, but Electivire with a monstrous attack. 143 for those of you wondering, able to win the charge attack priority. The opponent reluctant to let go of 100 energy. I was thinking, should I catch the next one on Jumpluff? But I'm thinking I may as well double shield here. So I have the potential to reset a debuff. The opponent gives me a taste of my own medicine, going for the wham, bam, combo play, but Electivire able to withstand the damage. We bank the wild charge to the road and then make the pivot into the cotton ball. This is a decent matchup for Jumpluff. Jumpluff can tank multiple charge moves, and as they've already been chipped with some fast move pressure, they should be in a range where one acrobatics picks up the knockout. We overfarm, fire off the acrobatics, looking to move Charger Bug from the field of play. That thing's supposed to be a 9-volt battery, which is kind of mad. The opponent sends out the snail. We fire off the acrobatics, putting them into wild charge range. The opponent tries to catch it onto Cradily. No such luck. One Thundershock and the wild charge, maximizing the fast move pressure, and we take that game. Double rock. Very nice. Heading into the next battle. We see Feraligatr in the lead position. The opponent save switches into Jumpluff. This is a free opportunity to fire off a double super effective Ice Punch, doing massive damage or forcing a Protect Shield. We then bank a little bit of energy and look to make the catch onto the big fat bunny. The opponent actually went for the Aerial Ace bait, which is perfect as that does nothing to the bunny. The opponent can full send an acrobatics, but Diggersby is just so bloody thick. Shadow Diggersby, despite being a ground type and then being a grass and flying type, more than holds its own in this matchup. We land the Fire Punch, rocking the opponent into the red. Aerial Ace removes me from the field of play. I send back out Electivire and out comes Drapion. I have 2 shields, with a good opportunity to start investing them here. Of course this is going to be an Aqua Tail. I'm then going to throw the Ice Punch. This is an intentional Ice Punch. If it goes unshielded, I just Fairy Wind farm them down. Ice Punch actually forced the Protect Shield, and finally we catch an Aqua Tail onto Jumpluff. We've got a Wild Charge bank, which will certainly come in handy as the lead is Feraligatr. The opponent can fire off the Crunch. Crunch does decent damage, but not enough to knock out. The opponent then pivots into Gator, and Gator is greeted with the Acrobatics. Acrobatics lands for monstrous damage. I'm then going to fire off the Aerial Ace, and I'm going to undercharge. The reason for this is I want to farm them down rather than give the opponent the opportunity to farm me down. The undercharge, an absolute beauty. The opponent fires off the Hydro Cannon and remove me from the field of play. We Thundershock farm down Gator. The opponent has 2 Pokemon remaining. I've got hardly any HP, but we don't need HP, we just need energy. Back out comes Jumpluff. Ice Punch removes them from the field of play. I could have settled for the Ice Punch, but we force in the Wild Charge because why not? GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, Electivire into Shadow Typhlosion. So if you're wondering how glassy Electivire is, you're about to find out. 3 Incinerates have done like 85% of my HP. I fire off the Ice Punch. It's a bit cheeky. However, if we get DRE, we reach a second. The game works as intended, so I can't be mad about it. The opponent fully Incinerate farms me down. We send out the bunny, correctly shield up the Blast Burn, and they are doubled up. With Jumpluff in the back, I think I'm just going to double shield. The opponent then pivots out into Big Man Blastoise. We're going to fire off the Scorching Sands and then attempt to catch a Hydro Cannon onto Jumpluff. And our catch attempt is successful, which certainly puts us back in the game despite being down a Protect Shield. This is quite a common team. I believe the final Pokemon is going to be Feraligatr. I overfarm, fire off the Aerial Ace before the opponent potentially reaches the Skull Bash. Aerial Ace removes them from the field of play. Back out comes Typhlosion. Typhlosion going to be greeted with the Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. They bank some energy and send out Lapras. So Lapras wasn't the Pokemon I was expecting. We fire off the Acrobatics, switch timers up. We're going to combo play into Diggersby, fire off the Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands picks up the knockout. Back out comes Typhlosion. They reach the Blast Burn. This is Blast Burn range. Do 2 Fairy Winds knock out? Yes, they do. How often are you going to see a fire type Fairy Wind farm down? Not all that often, but we're not complaining. Heading into the next battle. We see Tinkaton in the lead position. I attempt to catch a triple resisted Bulldoze onto Jumpluff. My catch attempt unsuccessful. The opponent then banks some energy and send out Lapras. This is alright for me, especially with a huge energy lead. We land the first acrobatics. We're going to overfarm ever so slightly, fire off the next acrobatics. I'm looking to pick up the knockout or force the protect shield. The opponent invests that protect shield. And I'm thinking I should be outside of Sparkling Aria range. We are outside of Sparkling Aria range. We attempt to throw the Aerial Ace, but a one-turn move. It does go first and we get denied of our energy. I send out Electivire. Electivire, looking for that one shield. A full Thunder Shock farm down. Can we get it? Yes, we can. We leave absolutely loaded. We pivot into Diggersby, again trying to catch a Bulldoze, and once again unsuccessful. Out comes Shadow Gator. So this is a matchup that Diggersby does win in the zero shield scenario as Scorching Sands plus the quick attacks knockout, or at least according to PvPoke, you can see I tried to quick attack farm down and they actually reach a move. Heartbreaking. I'm going to invest the protect shield, knowing the quick attack will knock them out. Back out comes Tinkaton. We go straight for the Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands goes unshielded. The opponent looked to Fairwind farm me down. That isn't CMP. So Ice Punch will be forcing the final protect shield. We've got 2 moves banked and we're going to escape with a dub. GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see Chestnut in the lead position. If you see Chestnut lead, you can almost guarantee the back line. Shout out my faction's teammate, no bonfire ahead. I attempt to catch a Frenzy Plant onto Jumpluff, unsuccessfully baiting out the Typhlosion. We're going to go straight for the Acrobatics. Acrobatics forces the opponent's first protect shield. The opponent makes a huge mistake trying to incinerate farm down. We're able to reach the second Acrobatics. And the opponent lets it go. Oof. My. Trainer, that is not how you use the team. The opponent's kind of obliged to let that go, to be honest. As if they double shielded there just to keep the energy, they'd just be denied the energy. As Electivire, of course, with a move bank, would win CMP. I'm going to send out Diggersby. Diggersby going to be operating as the damage sponge. We fire off the Fire Punch, losing CMP. Even if the opponent caught, that'd work for me. I know I survived this, and my win con is with Electivire. Fire Punch, going to go unshielded. We're going to pivot straight away into Electivire. Whenever I use Chestnut, I feel like it's reasonably bulky, but look how much this does. The opponent looked to tank the first move. They're going to get Thunder Shock farm down, and we take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see Gliscopod in the lead position. The opponent opting to stay in, which certainly means they've got something else that doesn't want to see us. I try my luck at catching an Aqua Jet onto Jumpluff. We catch at a really random time, and the opponent actually go for the X-Scissor. Out comes Talonflame. This is why I don't say switch Jumpluff. Although as I say that, look how much work Jumpluff's putting in. It is just such a busted Pokemon. Another opponent just trying to incinerate farm down Jumpluff, but Jumpluff not having any of that nonsense, reaches the Aerial Ace, winning the zero shield scenario, and out comes Shadow Typhlosion. I'm going to send out Diggersby. I'm going to farm up, attempt to make a CMP sack. Wild Charge forces the protect shield. It actually wasn't CMP, but the opponent does fire off immediately. Thunder Punch removes me from the field of play. I'm going to fire off the Scorching Sand, looking to force the final protect shield. The opponent farming up a bucket load of energy. And you know what? I'm feeling brave. There is no reason to bait. The opponent fire off the Thunder Punch bait. Oh my god. I've played this game since pre-season. In 22 seasons of the Go Battle League, that is the worst bait I've ever seen in my life. Back out comes Gliscopod, of course, running the Ghost type move, Shadow Claw, normal, double resist normal, so the opponent never ever farming me down. They're opting to throw charge moves, despite the fact they got 2 shields. I invest 1, fire off the Fire Punch, and take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see the silly electric fish in the lead position. What is this thing doing around in Season 22? I have no idea, but I do know the counts, and I'm able to catch a Surf onto Jumpluff. Once again, our Jumpluff is immediately hard countered by a Typhlosion. People are prepared for Jumpluff. This opponent correctly shows up the Acrobatics. As I've already been chipped, this opponent is able to fully incinerate farm me down. I could look to deny the energy with a Wild Charge. However, if I do that, the opponent could shield, and then I just get incinerate farm down with a lowered defense. We send out Diggersby once again, calling the Thunder Punch bait. We then correctly shield up the Blast Burn, and the opponent sends back out the silly electric fish. I guess they're trying to bait Electivire back into the arena, and I'm not having any of that. I forgot how bulky this fish was. A Shadow Scorching Sand that doesn't knock him out. We quick attack farm down and out comes Primeape. Primeape going to be greeted with the Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands rocks the opponent into the red and they're forced to dump energy. The opponent full sends a close combat. As unfortunately for them, a Rage Fist simply won't cut it. Back out comes Typhlosion. We fire off the Ice Punch. We're able to Thundershock farm down. Before the next Incinerate registers, back out comes Primeape and we're doubled up. The opponent now receiving the energy for the Rage Fist. Primeape used to having its way with charge attack priorities, but Electivire with the higher attack and we take that game. And now after 45 minutes, that just about wraps up. I would say a brief highlight of some of the battles I played today, but 45 minutes isn't all that brief. If anyone's made it to this point in the video, I salute you. Let me know by posting the word potato down below, because we all know I'm the biggest potato of them all with some of my crazy plays. If you're enjoying the content, smash that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing. If you'd like your battles featured on my channel, a link to my battle solution form is down below. And as always, a huge thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.